Hi, I'm Scott Smeester. Why the funny face? Well, the reason is because that's a surprise kind of look that you're probably going to have on your face when a prospect tells you that they want to think it over. Also, I figure that the first frame of a video is usually the one that's seen on a blog, so I figure if I have a funny face, it might solicit more clicks, and maybe that's how you got here. The purpose of today's video is to help you reduce the number of people that you have on your follow-up call list. You know, the people that tell you you're great, have a great presentation with, and they're just wild about you, but they tell you that they want to think it over. So, what we want to do is get rid of those. Eliminate them as much as possible. You're always going to get a few, but that's some people's tactic. Anyways, I'm going to make an assumption. The first assumption I'm going to make is that we're talking with a decision maker. That means somebody who can write a check. Also, they've got a problem that you can solve. Some type of a pain that they've admitted to you that you know that your product or service can take care of. Now, the whole key in this whole thing is right up front, set the proper expectations. In fact, you need to be doing that with a lot of different things, and we'll get into those in other videos, such as setting an agenda. For instance, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, what do we have to accomplish today for you to feel comfortable about moving forward? That's one. Another one might be, how much time do you have set aside? That's all things that you want to do up front in a meeting. It's very useful. The one that I'm just going to talk about briefly here is getting a decision, or agreeing to get a decision at the end of the meeting. And it goes like this. Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions for me. At the end of our meeting, I'm going to ask you to make a decision. Are you okay with that? And notice I do a very subtle nod. I don't do this, but it's just a subtle nod. Are you okay with that? I like to close my eyes, let them just go along with it, because you want to solicit the yes. Yeah. And you want to get them saying yes. You know, that's a sales tactic. The more yeses you can get. So, anyways, you can get one of three replies. You'll get the yes, and in which case you'll say great, and just move on. The other one you might get somebody say no. It's kind of rare, but if you do, that's a good opportunity just to stop and act surprised and just kind of reset the tone of the whole meeting. No, you don't act like that, but that's what you're thinking. No? Why would you say no to a simple question like that? But what you do is you say, oh, okay, can you help me out with that? Very gently, can you help me out with that? Okay? And which leads to what you're really going to talk about is when somebody tells you what kind of decision. Okay, what kind of decision? Well, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, if you know you want to buy, it's okay to say yes. And if you know you don't, and you know that this just isn't going to work out, it's okay to say no also. However, what's not okay is for you to say at the end of the meeting that you want to think it over. Does that make sense? And they may say, well, what do you mean? We say, you know, we've all been there. We've all been in this endless follow-up cycle where the salesperson just continues to follow up and they keep calling you. And neither one of us want to get into that situation, right? And they understand. They get that point. So, but the tactic behind all this, really, is you want to get somebody admitting that it's not okay to get into that situation. Everything is about being okay. Let's be okay with everyone. Everyone wants to be okay. In America, everyone wants to be okay. Just make sure I'm okay and you're okay, and then we'll all be okay. So that's the whole thing behind that. Now, you still may get some I want to think it overs and get those follow-up calls. It's still going to happen. You can't eliminate them all the time. But I believe that if you use that right up front, you set the proper expectations in the beginning, when you get to the end, you can ask, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I've shown you all this, blah, 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 did this, did that. Where are we? Are we ready to move forward? And most likely you'll get a yes or no. And if you don't, then what you need to do is really find the real objections. So, I'll talk to you next time. I look forward to it. Thanks.